Welcome back, everyone. We are two dudes talking 80s, bringing you all the stuff you loved about the best decade ever. I'm John. That's my partner in crime, Lewis.
Hello.
And I almost feel strange that we're talking right now because what we're going to talk about has no talking or singing. And what we're talking about is our favorite instrumentals of the 1980s. Lou, I know you're a big fan of instrumentals, right?
Definitely am. It's funny. Uh, I guess you have to be a musician for the most part to really sort of be in instrumentals. I don't know. They just don't seem to be super popular, and I'll touch on that a little bit later.
Well, yeah, I agree, but there were some big, even in the 80s, and there were some that were actually hits. And I'm not going to give you any of them, but I don't know if you are. So we'll see what we come up with today. But yeah, none of mine were hits. So maybe you got something for us, Lou. That was a hit. You want to lead us off?
I definitely will. So I'm going to first call out an instrumental that doesn't seem to get a lot of love. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, although the album it came off of was just super famous and amazing. The album is Master of Puppets, the band's Metallica, and the song's called Orion. And it is the only, actually, it's one of two songs that I know of that Metallica actually uses keyboards. The first one is Fade to Black, and at the very beginning, it's got the keyboard in the, sort of holding up the solo. And in this one, it's also at the beginning. It sounds like a Hammond organ. Very powerful song, just total headbanging music, and you don't hear a lot of people talk about it. I love it. I think it's a great song.
It, it's always difficult for me because Call of Cthulhu was another one. On Ride the Lightning, I kind of go back and forth, but I don't know. For whatever reason, I don't think their instrumentals are as strong as some of the ones I want to mention that were going to be in a similar genre. But from what I understand on Orion, that was a lot of that had to deal with was a Cliff Burton composition. So
Oh,
he was very instrumental, no pun intended, in making sure that that came out the way it did. He wrote a lot of it, and probably a lot of people don't even realize that. But yeah, that was big for Cliff, and I actually believe they played Orion at his funeral.
didn't know that, and I didn't know that had such a hand in writing it.
Yeah, he was quite. He was. I mean, he looked very different, but that guy was kind of like the mad genius on bass, and musicianship was pretty unparalleled for bassists back then. So a lot of credit to Cliff Burton. Left us way too soon. Very under very sad circumstances, but nice that we have his legacy, musical legacy, to look back upon and still appreciate. And Orion's definitely one of those.
For sure.
I might as well get my most obvious pick out of the way first, because everyone that knows me knows that I'm a huge Randy Rhoads fan. And I got to go to Blizzard of Oz in 1981. That came out. And on it, it contained an instrumental that he did on classical guitar called D, which was actually named after his mother, who was Dolores Rhoads. And that was kind of the very first thing that ever got me into classical guitar playing and what it could be. And it was really interesting to hear somebody from a heavy metal genre bring that in. And I think later on, you saw a lot of people try and do the exact same thing. I remember, like, for example, Exodus had No Love, and they had a classical guitar intro. You kind of had the flamenco thing with Battery for Metallica. So I think it was a huge influence on bringing other elements more prevalent into heavy metal. And it's just, besides that, it's just a beautiful tune.
That's a really good pick. I'd thought about that one as well, and I thought I was not going to call that one out because I was pretty sure that you would. It really showcases Randy Rhoads's versatility. It is a super beautiful piece. I remember hearing somewhere it was an outtake that they actually had where he was recording it and he messes up. He's like, "Oh, oops," and he starts over and does it again, and he nails it. But yeah, super cool piece. And again, it really showcased how versatile and how amazing of a guitar player that he was, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the outtakes you're talking about was actually on the Ozzy Osbourne tribute album,
Oh,
the
okay.
live album. So they did put that at the very end of the tribute album, which was pretty amazing.
Very cool. Good pick. The next one I'm going to go with is a little obscure. It did get radio airplay. Probably a lot of people haven't even heard of the name of the band. Ronnie Montrose was in it, and the band's name is called Gamma, and the instrumental is called Condition Yellow. It is listening to it today because I hadn't heard it in a long time, and listening to it today, it's almost got like a new wave flavor to it. It's very peculiar, but it's probably the first instrumental that I ever remember hearing going, wow, that's like really cool. I'm really enjoying this. And there was some band at high school that covered this. And it was funny because they were a bunch of really geeky looking guys, but they turned out to be amazing musicians. And they pulled this off without a hitch. But yeah, that's my second call out. Again, super obscure, but I think it's a cool tune.
I don't think I've ever heard of it. I remember like one or two Gamma songs. I think one of my buddies had one of their records, but yeah, I can't say I was a huge fan of Gamma. So I'm not familiar with this tune at all.
I'll,
So
I'll send you the link after. I'm
how,
sure that you've heard of it.
how did you hear it originally? Was it ever get radio airplay or?
Yeah, I think it was KSJO.
Wow. Okay. I
Yeah,
don't remember. Yeah, you don't hear a lot of instrumentals on the radio, so that's pretty impressive feat right there. So very cool. Looking forward to checking it out. Well, my next pick is back to the heavy metal genre. What a shock! And this instrumental was actually teased on an EP, an extended play album. Teased, you got a little bit of a taste of it, and then came out in full the following year, and that's the Day at Guyana, and that was done by Agent Steel. They did the tease on the Mad Locust Rising EP, and it came out the following year in its complete form on the in the Unstoppable Force album. And you know, you talk about Metallica. To me, this is what those Metallica instrumentals try to be. Um, I just think they did a much better job of it. It really took you on a journey, and it's a lot of times those longer instrumentals you get a little bored of them. I never get bored of this one. You never get sick of it. It's got so many twists and turns, and it's very interesting. The musicality is just through the charts, and fantastic song.
very cool. I've not heard that one before. I'll have to go listen to it, especially after your rave review of it.
Yeah, I'm sure you don't have a lot of Agent Steel on your playlist.
No, and if I do, it's probably still in cellophane.
Yeah, so their first album was really like a very thrashy, and then it was interesting to watch them progress because I really liked the EP, the Mad Locust Rising, even though that was a lot of thrash. And then their, you know, the second full-length album, the Unstoppable Force album, they just really, you know, turned it into something a lot different, a lot of different moods, tempos, things like that, and they just became a better band, in my opinion. It's a shame that they weren't able to stick it out and stay together. So I think what they would have been able to accomplish would have been something really cool. But you know, a lot of egos in that band, especially the lead singer, and sadly, it wasn't to be.
Bummer, but I'll look forward to listening to that one. That sounds interesting. The next one I've got, I think most people have heard of. Again, as I sort of alluded to at the beginning, not many tunes that are instrumentals make it into the charts. There's a few of them that I can think of. There was Rocket by Herbie Hancock, Chariots of Fire. That theme also made it into the I think it was top 100. One I'm going to call out though was done by Harold Faltermeyer. Do you know who did this one, John?
Axel F.
There you go. Came from the movie Beverly
Actually,
Hills.
he's actually in the intro. I didn't even know what he looked like till I looked it up, and I threw it on the intro, not knowing what you'd pick. So yeah, good one on that one.
That's
You
awesome.
mentioned a couple others that I put on the intro.
I didn't know who actually did it. I always thought it was Axel F by Axel F, but I looked it up on the internet. It's like, oh no, it's actually Harold Faltermeyer. It was released in 1984. It was debuted in the movie Beverly Hills Cop. It actually made it to #3 on the Billboard Top 100. I remember walking into Macy's one Christmas season, and they had a Casio keyboard there, and I started playing it because the main part of it's very easy to play. And this guy was watching me, and then I went to the second part, which is still pretty easy, but you've got to know keyboards a little bit more to play it. And the guy's all like, "Oh my God, you know the second part? That's awesome, dude. Good luck with your career. Good luck with your career." Well, buddy, here I am, and I turned into a computer geek. Went nowhere with keyboards, so thank you for that. Good luck.
Well, hey, things turned out okay anyway. The
They
guy was
did,
inspiring, though. You know,
and I think I actually ended up helping transpose that for you so that you can include it in one of your guitar solos when you're in Tramontane.
I did. I threw a little bit a taste of that in there just to be, something different and fun. And he also, I believe, he also is the one that did the Top Gun theme.
Oh, really? I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that's him as well. So he had a little period where he was like the big wig, like Danny Elfman is now. So cool pick. Didn't make mine. Um, I'm gonna pick one that's somebody that's God. He's such a phenom, and he doesn't get talked about nearly enough, and he should. And that's Michael Schenker with the Michael Schenker Group. In 1983, they came out with an album called "Built to Destroy," and on that album, he had a song called "Captain Nemo," and he named it Captain Nemo because he believed that it sounded like they were underwater, and it's super cool. It's so cool, and it does sound kind of like it's kind of underwater. He has a really cool guitar tone on that. Some fantastic guitar playing. He's just otherworldly as a talent, and again, doesn't get enough recognition for what an amazing guitar player he is. I don't know why we don't talk about him. We mentioned the all-time greats. I know he's an influence on Randy Rhoads and Adrian Vandenberg and a lot of other great guitar players. But yeah, fantastic instrumental, ton of fun. Again, takes you on a little journey, and doesn't need any lyrics to get you there. So definitely check out Captain Nemo, Built to Destroy.
Excellent. I'll do that. I've not heard of that one, and I got into Michael Shankner a bit later on in life. Actually, probably the last 5 years is actually when I started to really get into him and discover some of his music. Haven't gotten into his earlier stuff yet. I got this mainly the Macaulay Shankner stuff that I purchased. But yeah, you're right. He's completely underrated. He's a great guitar player, great songwriter, just some amazing progressions and chord changes, just sort of original. So good call, very good call.
Yeah, I remember seeing him years back with UFO when UFO reunited the original members, and we walked into I think it was the old Keystone Palo Alto, but I forgot what they had renamed it at the time. And Michael Schenker was sitting there with a black and white acoustic guitar, selling his instrumental CD and signing it. I kick myself all the time thinking about why I didn't get him to sign something for me, but he was just sitting there ripping it up on the acoustic guitar, and you're just like, Michael Schenker is right in front of me, tearing it up on an acoustic. How cool is this? And very cool moment. Just wish I had bought the damn CD like an idiot. I didn't.
Wow, that must have been a hell of an experience. And yeah, I mean, hindsight's always 2020.
Sometimes it's 50-50.
All right, my next pick is somebody that was very influential on me when he first came out. I absolutely thought he and his band were amazing, and I'm talking about my boy right here, Yngwie Malmsteen.
While you touch
And
your nipples.
yes, and yeah, when he came out with his album Rising Force in 1984, it was just full of instrumental tunes in there. I think it's only got maybe one or two songs that actually have vocals on them. Hard to pick which one I wanted out off of that. I ended up going with Far Beyond the Sun. It just it takes you. It's sort of like what you were mentioning about Agent Steel. It takes you through all these different, almost classical movements, you know. And I actually think that the beginning of that song was lifted from a Beethoven piece. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that I've heard a classical version of that before. But regardless, it's a great song. It was when Yngwie was, in my opinion, at his absolute height, just absolutely on fire and doing something that was very different. And I'm going with that one.
It's a great call. That album's fantastic. Nothing he did after that really resonated with me. I'm kind of partial to Black Star, especially because of the way it starts and it's, you know, a little dirgy. But you know, he really, you know, yes, obviously Eddie Van Halen, Randy Rhoads were huge, Michael Schenker, but he really brought it on to where once he came out, you saw all these guitar heroes popping up, and Shrapnel Records started, you know, with Yngwie, and you know, because he did the Steeler album, and then Paul Gilbert and Greg Howe, and you know, Vinnie Moore, who went on to UFO. Just all these amazing solo guitar players. Joe Satriani, you know, got signed. But I think he really was responsible for that, even though nobody really sounds like him, but he brought that guitar hero, you know, persona back to the forefront. And it didn't require a band setting. You know, it required a band, but it didn't require a vocalist. A lot of these bands did instrumentals, you know, and well, let's thank for him. But like, I agree with you. I think that was really, you know, I loved his work with Steeler. I thought it was great, and I loved, you know, his, you know, Rising Force album. But after that, I just kind of felt like, you know, then it started repeating itself, and it just didn't reach the same heights. Didn't have that same kind of, you know, kind of drive or energy. But
Right, right,
amazing guitarist and such a huge influence on so many people.
for sure.
All right. So we make a lot of mistakes on this show. God knows I do, and somebody else does too. Um, and sometimes we call out stuff, and when we find out later, we call out each other, and we found out, yeah, hey, dummy, that wasn't 80s. Well, this is going to be one of those ones, and I'm still going to do it because I'm going to have a little loophole. And it's actually a pretty big loophole, so bear with me.
All right.
In 1990, Eric Johnson released Avia Musicum. And it contained one of the all-time great instrumentals, "Cliffs of Dover." Fantastic song. In my opinion, if you can play that song, you're a great guitar player, and I can't play that song. But, and there's the big but, I remember being at the San Mateo Public Library, and they would have guitar player magazines. And Guitar Player back in those days would have the flexi disc. Remember where you'd rip them out of the magazine? They're plastic and you play them, the 45s. Well, their May 1986 issues had the sound page in there for Eric Johnson, a live version of Cliffs of Dover.
Wow.
And I remember, I'm like, well, it's not like anyone's going to be able to listen to it in here, you know, dunk. Threw it in my backpack or whatever I had at the time, probably my peachy, and I just put it on, and I was just absolutely blown away by what an amazing guitar player this guy was. I had never even heard of him, and he came out with Cliffs of Dover. I remember buying his first album, I think it was Tones, and just being so disappointed because, you know, one, he tries to sing, and I didn't like his singing, and two, that song wasn't on there, and there was nothing that was kind of in a similar vein. But again, he did come out with it in 1990 and put it out there. But I was exposed to it in May of '86, give or take. So it's an '80s instrumental in my world, and it's one of the all-time greats.
What a great story, man. So, you know, that totally qualifies, right? Because it was a recorded version of it in the 80s.
Yep.
He's a very good guitar player. He has a very distinctive guitar tone. And I've not heard this song, if at least if I have, I'm not recognizing it from the title. So I'll have to go hunt that one out.
I'm surprised. I'm sure if you hear it, you'll know it. You'll recognize it immediately. Just has such a great feel to it. You know, it's kind of upbeat, and but the guitar playing's insane.
Oh, I remember it now.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. See, you
Good
knew it.
call.
Thank you.
Good call.
And it came out in the 80s.
Sweet, sweet. Oh, that's excellent, man. That's a super good story. All right. Well, my last pick is one that you already touched on the artist a little bit in one of your prior commentaries. And he hit the scene in 1987 with his album Surfing with the Alien. And it's the lovely and talented Joe Satriani. And he had a lot of really great tunes on on that album. Hard to pick just one. I'm going with Satch Boogie, and I just like it so much because it's got such a boogie woogie feel to it, and it's got different sections to it where, it was really really cool, and it's just a sort of another feel good type of tune.
You know what's funny is I have that album and that was the much bigger hit, right? But I really liked his first one better, Not of This Earth. The production wasn't that good, but I thought the songs were better on Not of This Earth. But he's fantastic, and he also looks like Louis Betancourt, so that's kind of cool too. But great guitar player. He used to be a guitar teacher, right, in the Bay Area.
I do. I actually had a couple of no, actually no. He taught somebody famous.
Kirk Hammett of Metallica,
Yeah, and somebody else, right?
Steve Vai,
Steve Vai. That was the one that I was
and
looking
also
for.
Alex Skolnick of Testament, though I'm sure there are more.
Yeah, yeah. I knew that he was a teacher, and I knew that he actually had some students that were famous. I don't think that I was aware of Kirk Hammett, and but yeah, Steve Vai was the one I was looking for.
Yeah, that. How did I not find him as a guitar teacher back in the day? That would have been amazing. You know, maybe I'd
Yeah,
be playing. Maybe I'd be on stages right now.
yeah. Maybe we'd be talking about you right now.
We probably wouldn't be because I'd be too big to be talking, but I'm not.
Ah, ah.
All right. So, my last one, I gotta go with another person and another band. I've brought him up a few times, but I'm gonna continue to bring him up, and that's Triumph. And Rick Emmett, amazing guitar player. I know that Ant would have gone with Midsummer Daydream, but I'm going to go with Petite Etude, which came off their Allied Forces album in 1981. It's kind of similar to D, kind of came out around the same time too. But there's just something about Petite Etude that really, just a beautiful, beautiful guitar piece, classical, and it's something you need to check out. It's like a minute 20, but he packs in a lot in that minute 20, and it's just a wonderful composition. So much credit to Rick Emmett. And it's funny because I never saw Triumph back in the day, and I really regret not having seen him. But Rick Emmett used to come all the time and play at like the One Step Beyond and things. I don't know why I never saw him. It's just one of those things that I never did. I never got around to it, and I regret it. I've never seen Triumph perform. I've never seen Rick Emmett perform, and it doesn't look like they're ever going to come back, which is a sad thing. But if he ever does something like an acoustic performance or something, I'd love to see him perform.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with Rick Emmett's solo stuff. I do know that Triumph is a great band, definitely very iconic of the 80s, at least for me. So very, very good pick. I've had friends of mine that have told me that his solo stuff is really outstanding as well. I just don't have any of it, and I've not heard it.
Yeah, I remember Erin was a huge Rick Emmett fan, so she'd probably know more. So if she's watching this, Erin, let us know. What should we be picking up? I'm gonna have a bonus pick because this was driving me nuts and I didn't include it, and I'm so bummed I didn't. You okay with that?
Rock and roll, baby.
So this band wrote a lot of instrumentals before they found a singer, and one of them was actually included on their debut self-titled album, which got stuck in Dan DeMeo's GTO for way too long. But it's one of the great heavy metal thrash instrumentals, and that's from Metal Church's self-titled debut, Metal Church. And it was a track called Merciless Onslaught. And again, it's strange because you can tell when they wrote this that they didn't care about, you know, the musicality or anything. Like a lot of people throwing all this musical greatness, and not that it's not fantastic, but you can tell they just wanted to thrash it out, and that's what they did. And it's a great instrumental, short to the point. You know, it's about 3-4 minutes, but it hits you like a ton of bricks. Also, one of their songs, and definitely deserves mention because, you know, that's one of the all-time great debut albums. Not a bad song on it. And again, another band that really doesn't get any attention or love as they should, because they were, you know, one of the first that really came out there. So out of Seattle, Washington, Metal Church.
Cool, man. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. I was not a huge Metal Church fan, but I'll give them a listen.
I still have my Metal Church shirt. I used to see them all the time on that first album. I saw them a few times on the second. Then obviously we played with them on the third album. But they had the best merchandise thing that I've ever seen is on their debut album. You know, they had an insert in the album where you could order Metal Church shirts. And I think we did. But you could also order a Metal Church neck brace. You know, if you were banging that head too hard, throw on the Metal Church neck brace, all would be good. And I thought that was genius. And I regret, you know, being a poor teenager, I never ordered it. I was like, why would I want that? But God, I wish I had it. So they're come out with it again. I've got to buy a Metal Church neck brace. Probably need it more now than I did then.
That's pretty creative, man. That is sort of marketing genius there. I wonder how many people actually ordered it.
I don't know if anyone has a Metal Church neck brace. I want to know about it and how much you want for it. So
Very cool, man. Well, I guess that wraps us up here, John.
wow,
That went very
we
quickly.
did a lot of talking about stuff that had no talking in it or singing.
Yes, we absolutely did. We absolutely did. And yeah, we covered a lot of ground. That went very quickly.
I am shocked. I thought for sure you were going to mention Herbie Hancock's Rocket. I was waiting for it this whole time.
I was tempted to, but I think we brought it up in another episode, so I thought, you know, I'll let that one lie.
Let that one lie. All right. Well, very cool. Anything else you want to add before we call this?
No, I mean, I think I'm good.
All right. Again, before we started this, we were laughing at the difference in our attire. I'm in shorts and a t-shirt, and Lewis looks like he's in Alaska. So you can tell, even though we're both in California, the climates are a little bit different from Southern California to where he's at in Northern California today.
Wee bit.
A skosh, a tad. Another bot. So I don't know why that came up. But anyway. All right, Lou. As always, brother. Take us out.
All right. Peace out.
Thank you guys.